Welcome to another Dragonlance Saga Hangout. It is Krynn Frost Colt the 17th. My name is Adam, and today I'm going to be going a little bit solo here, talking about Dragon Wars card game and going through the Dragonlance Conspectus that was part of the 5th Age rollout, which I think I'd seen before, but in my research for the Dragon Wars card game, I actually found like a big old poster map of it, and I wanted to sort of cover that. So hope you guys are having a great day. So let's talk about it a little bit. I would like to take a moment and say thank you to the DL Saga YouTube members and Patreon patrons and invite you to consider becoming a member or patron. You can even pick up Dragonlance Media using my affiliate links in the description below. All right, so if you don't know what Dragon Wars card game is, ostensibly it's just like a regular card game, except there's some, sort of specific rules. For example, when it was originally released, it was released with the Fate deck in mind. So let me see if I can find that version of it. Well, not that it really matters because it's all about the cards that I've got loaded up here. But ostensibly, the original was presented in the RPG Aid, the Dragonlance Saga Fate deck, and the RPG rules included in the game are credited to like Steve Brown, Steve Miller, and Ed Stark, but there was no designer noted for the Dragon Wars card game itself. Then in the appendix of the Odyssey of Gilthanas, there was a Dragon Wars card game that was released, but there was referenced as revised rules by Steve Miller. So the original Dragon Wars card game is a game from like 3 to 10 players, and it's using the Saga Systems Fate deck, of which I do actually have here. And the revised version inside of the Odyssey of Gilthanas makes mention of the Talus card deck, which of course is a Dragonlance staple. It showed up in like, I don't know what it was, like DL11 or something like that. And then, of course, it was used in the Dragonlance Tales of the Lance box set in 2nd edition, and I don't think it's ever been used since. But in 1st and 2nd edition, the Talus deck was a thing. All right, and then, of course, they said, if you don't have the Talus deck or something, then, of course, you just use players' regular playing cards, your traditional set and just normal game. And that's what I wanted to present in this sort of playthrough example was just your typical player card version of it. Before we get into the Dragonlance, the Dragon Wars card game, that's all about the Dragon Purge. And that's context that I think is very, very important. It's meant to be just a casual card game for players to reenact the Dragon Purge that happened in the 5th Age when the Dragon Overlords started taking over. They would consume the other dragons and like draw the life force out of the dragons, and it would like bolster them up and make them actively stronger. Let me see something really quick. I had someone that was going to be joining me today, and I'm seeing if they're able to be joining me now. It looks like they are. All right, so that's great. So let's do this. How's it going? All right, hold on a second. I need to turn on my camera, and I need to have this as a pop-out so I can add my partner in crime today. Of course, that is not my partner in crime. Let me set this up correctly. Hey, how's it going? I cannot hear you. Is your audio on? We'll get this working somehow. Patience is a virtue, remember, everyone. Testing. So let me try to set this up while we're trying to get audio working. So, of course, you all know Chris from the comment section. He's usually good about joining in on most of the streams when he has time. And today we are going to do this. So while he's working on that, I see you have a wonderful Christmas tree in the background. That's awesome. Let's look at the Dragonlance Conspectus, because this I found incredibly interesting. And not just because it breaks down the ages in a very interesting, like the first age, second age, third age, fourth age, and then, of course, we're dealing with the fifth age at the end of this. And I have no idea at what point. Let me go to this view until we can get the audio working. I have no idea at what point this was actually released versus when, like, the fifth age came out. So I just found it very, very interesting looking. But what it has is, on top, it's got all of the gods. On the center area, it's got all of the ages broken down by main bullet points of what's happened. And then below that, it's got novels. Now, the novels do not line up with the ages. And I think up until the end of the fourth age, that's when the novels sort of like ended. So this is all right before the fifth age. I'm not sure where I got this. Well, I know where I got it online. It was the TSR archive online. But I don't know what it was originally released with. I just found it really neat. So here's something that's kind of interesting. So it has the gods by alphabetical order. And chaos it has twice. It has chaos, no thought, just existence, like the chaos of the universe itself. But then you have the chaos god, and the image they use for the chaos god, for deep cut fans here, that's the image that was used in the painting of the battle between Raistlin Magir and Fistendanilus, when Raistlin went back in time and revealed himself to Fistendanilus, and they had this massive battle. And it was really, really cool that we had this sort of like wizard summoning party and everything, and like they were like battling each other. But anyway, that's the creature that Fistendanilus summoned in order to battle Raistlin. And they just reuse artwork all the time in TSR era. So what are you going to do? And this is one with all and nothing, unbridled fury, disorder, dissolution, eternity. It's pretty cool. Yeah, when you have your audio working, just go ahead and start piping in, and I'll let you know if I can hear you or not. So we've got, of course, Chemish, which is just a draconian here. But I've never actually seen that draconian image, which I find kind of interesting. Chislov is, I don't know, she looks kind of like a plainswoman. Not Gold Moon, but I don't know. Gillian, you see the guy like sort of over the books, but also this like sort of red-faced, angry eyes and stuff. Hidakel is part of Tikis's dragons, or like a two-headed dragon for some reason. I never thought of Hidakel as a two-headed dragon. That's interesting. The High God, of course, is that image. This image goes all the way back in that I'm aware of to second edition Tales of the Lands box set. Let's see. What's another one? Lunatary looks like she's enjoying herself. Jeez. Mishakal is pretty cool here. Morgan, he looks dope. Paladine, of course, Fizban's avatar. Reorx. Now I'm starting to wonder, is it me that's having the issue with the audio? Because I can see you fine, I just can't hear you fine, which makes it a little odd. But yeah, I don't know. So let's see what else we got here that's interesting. Sargona's, of course, that's an image from Tollida's about a fire minion. Shiner is that a griffin? I don't even know. Syrian, Zeboium, and Zivlin. Good stuff, though. And then let's look at these ages really quick, because I thought those were kind of interesting. So the character key underneath it, of course, the good, balance, and evil. But the age of Starbirth, it has like uncharted time and the events that happened. I've actually got videos for some of these, like the All Dragons War I've got video for. The first, second, and third Dragon Wars I got videos for. Testing. Anything? Can you hear me? I guess that's the question. Hey, Ryan, thanks for tuning in. Scott, thanks for tuning in. Sith a Brick, what up? It's part of the Game Center online resource. It's what I found online. I'm not sure where it first came from. James, thank you for tuning in. So you've got major playing characters. Yeah, I do not hear you at all. I don't understand this. Let me see if I have other system audio to see if it's me or not. I'm trying to find out here. All right, I'm going to play a song for everyone really quick just to see what's up. Yep, system audio's working. So that's not it. Let me see if I can adjust your volume. I've got you bumped up to 200 now, which is like double your max volume. Maybe I'll pot it down so it doesn't break eardrums when he gets it working. All right, so posted the path above to TS Archive where you can save a copy. Was that the Garden Grove? I'm not sure. That was the song I played just now was a Fantasia sound. I just heard a click. I don't know if that counts for anything. You wonder if the new Margaret Weiss trilogy will make Kaz books less canon.
I heard a click.
Oh, I just heard you. And I don't hear you anymore. Say something. Testy. No. That's weird. I heard you just a second ago. You repeated a click sound. Like you heard a click sound. Sith is in the comments. Oh, above in the chat. I don't see a link. I wonder if I have to approve it.
Testing.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Testing? Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. How
Yes?
you doing? Yeah. Is there like a massive delay or
Thanks.
something?
Sorry, everybody.
Yes. He needed help from his wife.
Oh, well, thank you very much, wife.
I did it! Anna can help too.
Sorry.
All right. Hey, welcome to the show.
So embarrassing. So embarrassing. Sorry.
Astinus looks like Tim Curry right here. If you guys can see this, check out Astinus. Tell me that doesn't look like Tim Curry.
Is that Mike Perry?
Mike Perry? No.
Who's like the illustrator?
Oh, I have no idea who did this.
Because he loves to do those where it looks like people from 80s and 90s.
Right. Yeah, I have no idea. Interesting. So Astinus right here, I think, looks like Tim Curry for sure.
Yes,
But maybe
I can
that's
see
just
that.
me. I don't know. Can you load into Roll20?
I always pictured. Yeah, I always pictured him as more like buff. Astinus.
Really?
Because maybe it was that one illustration in the Chronicles where he's like ripped. He's got like his shirt off. One of the interior illustrations of the Chronicles made him look pretty ripped.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I never imagined him as ripped because he's such a bookworm. I never thought he'd like go out to the gym. You know? Or is he just like skinny person ripped? You know how like there's like if you're just super skinny, all you see is your muscles because there's no fat on your body, and it's not that you're strong, it's just that you're just skinny. Like, maybe that's it.
Isn't there that part though?
I don't know. All right, let me drag you over here so you can see this too. Yeah, and we've got all the books down there, but of course it only stops at Knights of the Sword. Knights of the Crown, Knights of the Sword, Knight of the Rose.
Auto measure and the
books were not very good.
Got it. Okay.
In my opinion, they were not very good. But anyway, I thought this was just a really interesting find to see all the different ages sort of clumped together like this. I wonder what it would look like. I mean, of course, because we have like 200 some odd books, it would be, 2 rows of books at the bottom rather than just one probably. But it is very interesting. Like, who would have to take this on to in order to do it properly? It's got to be someone with way more time on their hands.
That question comes up all the time with new fans. They always ask, what order of the books.
Yeah. This is the order: Chronicles, Legends, and then whatever you want.
I think it would be fun when you finish the all of the books to kind of. Yeah, I think that. Yeah,
I think we have a huge delay between us.
it's fair.
In like the audio.
Of course. Oh,
Because like I'll say something and then you'll respond to it like almost a full minute or so later. This could make playing a game prohibitive. So let me go over the rules of the game and we'll see if we can get it working.
let me see if I maybe switch to a different browser.
Oh, are you using Discord in a
can-
browser?
I'm gonna try something. Go sideways.
I wonder if that is part of the reason for it. Okay, so
Let
the
me try
rules
different-
for
I might.
Dragon Wars. Now, these are the revised rules. I think they're a little easier, even though the original rules are pretty simple too. But basically, all the clubs are attack cards, all of the hearts are defense cards, and all the diamonds are attack or defense cards. So it's really just you have to pull out the spades, and all the spades represent dragons. And so the spades have their own deck, which I have here as the Dragon Nest, the top deck right here. And the bottom deck is all of the other cards. Now, each player is going to have 5 cards in their hand, and their hand is going to be used to not only attack other people's dragons, but also to defend your own dragon. So at the start of play, the youngest person goes first. They pull a dragon and they have it sitting in front of them, and that's the dragon that they're protecting. And then we just sort of go with whoever has the highest number. So if I pull a 1, for example, or an ace is representative of 1. And Chris pulls like a 10, he would go first because he has a higher number. And then he would decide, is he going to attack my dragon, which of course is the point. And so he would look in his hands for a club or a diamond, and he would play it 1 card, and then I would have to play a card in defense. Now, the whole thing is you're supposed to do it at the same time, so you don't know the number that you're combating. You're just throwing down whatever card. And this way, the attacker can then raise the stakes and
Okay.
put down another card, and then the defense would then have to put down another card as well. It's just called raising the stakes. Traditionally, in this revised version, it's called pressing the attack. But again, you have to say that you're going to press the attack and then get the card ready, and then at the same time lay them down so that there's no delay in your choosing one that's, higher or lower than the other person. It's supposed to be a surprise. And then when you're done with the whole attack round, then you subtract the defense versus the attack, and any leftover takes damage to the dragon. And so if your dragon is the ace and only has 1 hit point, and they did 1 damage, well, then your dragon's dead and it goes into their trophy hall. And you do that up until all of the dragons are gone in this version of the game. And so it could take a couple minutes. I have no idea. It could take 3 hours. I have no idea. I don't know. So does that sound pretty simple? What do you think, Chris? Is your audio still delayed?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah, it's delayed. Oh, man.
Can you hear me now? It sounds good to me. I heard.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's a delayed response is all. So we'll try it and we'll see what happens. But basically, go ahead, since I believe I'm older than you, because I'm ancient.
Okay.
Do you want to go ahead and try to draw a dragon and drag it? Whoa. Are you leaving? All right, everyone, this is his house. Hey, Sith, welcome to Whitestone Council. Appreciate you. I don't know what's happening here. That was a very long cord that you plugged in.
Okay.
What was up with that? No, I think, Sith, I think I have all the links turned off until I approve them.
Thank you.
What's that, Chris? Yeah, it's breaking up.
I've tried to instead of do Wi-Fi.
Oh, you're trying to plug it in directly? I see. Oh, yeah, this is going to be difficult, man. This might be one of those things where we tried it and it's just not going to work.
Oh, I was just trying to click in instead of doing the Wi-Fi to see if that would help.
Okay. Well, let's just test the sort of speed between the two of us of hearing and saying. And so I'm just going to ask you a question, then you just respond as soon as you hear it. Do you believe in Santa Claus?
Still breaking up, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a delay.
Yeah.
That's not going to work very well. Well,
Not any better.
no, well, it's just a really long delay is all. That's the problem.
All right.
So let's
All right. If you have someone else,
well, I don't. But we can just sort of I'll just walk through it
yeah.
and showcase people how it would go, and I'll just play both sides so that we can sort of showcase it. Thanks for trying to hop on. I appreciate that. Give Chris a round of applause, everyone, and we will try to do this another way and another time. All right, so we'll give it a go. Anyway, so here is the game. We're going to pretend that the top one is going to be, let's flip the card. So this is, of course, a dragon with 4, and the bottom is me, and it's going to be a dragon of 1. Oh, I cursed myself because I said 1 earlier. Okay, and then you deal 5 cards to everyone. So 5 cards to me and 5 cards to, we're just going to say, Chris. This, I'm not even going to be able to showcase it because I would need another player in here, and I can't see his cards. So I can show you mine. So the clubs and the diamonds are the ones that I can attack with. And I've got some really good diamond ones to attack with. Defense of hearts, I don't have a lot to defend with. So just for argument's sake, I'm going to say I'm the top one so I can do the attacking. So if I wanted to attack the ace dragon, then I would clearly, knowing it's an ace and knowing that they're going to be playing some sort of defense card, I would probably want to go in the middle, and I'll just say, like, I'll do a 5, right? Because the diamonds are attack or defense. So I'm going to play a 5 at the same time that, you know, maybe Chris was going to play a card. And so I would just drop it down, and then he would drop his down. And then, you know, whichever is higher, we would then, you're supposed to put, like, health points on each of these to represent the amount of health that they have. And so if, for example, I only came through with a 2, he still would have done 3 damage because 5 minus 2 is 3. And so it would have done 3 damage to my dragon. I only have 1 hit point on my dragon because aces are 1s. And so he would have killed my dragon and taken it to his trophy hall. And then I would have to pull out another dragon from my next turn. And then we would refill our hands to 5 cards. And that's the game. You just go round after round, taking turns each, and you just go through until you run out of dragons. Now, of course, there's the entire spade of dragons. So that's ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, jack, queen, king. And jack is 11, queen is 12, king is 13 as far as hit points go. And so this is 12 hit points. So this would be all of these except for the last one, of course, for hit points. And so it would be much more difficult to kill, of course, the higher level or the higher hit point dragons than it is the lower ones. And that's where through each round, as soon as attacker is done attacking, it moves on to the next player. They still suffer however many hit point damage you've caused them. And so in the first round, I may lose 2 or 3 hit points, or maybe I lose a full like 5 hit points the next round. And then, it just takes a couple rounds of going back and forth to kill this dragon, but eventually it would be killed and it would be added to their trophy hall. And then if I killed his dragon, it would come here to my trophy hall. So it's really, really simple. And then when you learn how you win by, as soon as you run out of all of the spade cards, which represent the dragons, you just total the amount of dragons that you killed yourself. And so really in that particular case, it depends on the randomness of the dragon, of the pulling of the cards, right? On whoever has the higher number, because I think ultimately it's going to average out to just be, a massive amount of number for the person with the 10, 11, 12, 13 in comparison to the people with 1, 2, 3, 4, you know what I mean? So anyway, a fun little game that they created for the Saga system and ultimately did revised rules for any playing card game. But I was wondering what it would look like with the Talus deck. Because let me show you the Saga system cards really quick. So we're going to get rid of these cards. And just put them here. And then pull out the Saga cards. So here's a Saga Fate deck in general. I don't want that one. I want the Dragon Wars Saga deck and Dragon Wars Dragon cards. So the Dragon cards... Oh, that's the wrong pile. This is the Dragon Nest. So these are the Saga... Fate deck cards. You can see the whole dragon suit is all dragons, but they have suits going from like, well, here, let me show in this way. They've got everything from arrows to moons, to orbs, to crowns, dragons, hearts, helms, shields, and everything. And what that means for the game is that arrows, swords, and moons are all attack cards. Helms, shields, and hearts are all defense cards, and orbs and crowns are attack or defense. And so you have a whole lot more cards to deal with. Instead of the regular 52 of a player's hand, you have 72 plus the 10 dragon cards to play with. So it's just a whole lot more cards. But there's the Talus cards also that I've got here. So let's look at this, where the Talus cards have, I think this is it right here, where it's got all the different cards. So it's got water and, I don't know, plants, like all sorts of different types of cards. Well, that's the Seeker card, so that's even different. So I wonder how it would work with Talus, because there's so many in the Fate deck. Maybe that corresponds with the number of different suits in the Talus deck. And it'd be kind of cool to, have the Talus deck version of it, because then you could just sort of spice it up a bit by, the Talus card has this sort of like fake cloth that runs across it, very similar to like Tarot. And then it would go at the very back, and then all the cards would lay on top of it, sort of to like tell fortune or whatever. But it would just be an interesting way, I think, to showcase the different. So it is orb. So hold on, let's look at this really quick. So we've got all the orbs, and then chaos is another one. We have command. So Bane. I don't think those are the suits, though. Maybe it is. Because it also has, like, the symbol on top of it. I would have to look up the Talus card deck to find out exactly. But pretty interesting stuff. Anyway, kind of was hoping we'd be able to try this out. Unfortunately, it just didn't work this time, which bit of a bummer, but what are you going to do? So, let's see what we want to talk about today. All right, so that's kind of the Dragon Wars game. I don't know. Do you guys have anything that you wanted to talk about? I was actually like thinking about the different forms of shows that I do every day during the week for this channel, sort of comparing and contrasting it to the shows that I do for other stuff. And I realized that there's some shows that just don't get the views compared to other ones, So let me just look at this really quick, and maybe we can just back and forth a little bit about what you guys would like to see from this channel versus what I'm actually doing for this channel. You know what I mean? Because in the lore videos that I put out every Tuesday, they're sort of framed as setting videos. They get decent views. They're kind of interesting. The games, they end up getting, like the live plays, the like Tyranny of Dragons specifically, because that's the actual 4-hour live play. That gets decent views. But when it comes to like the School of the Games tournament, that doesn't really get very good views. Those are on Tuesday nights. Monday nights are the DM 101 series, and that gets a little bit better than the Tuesday night views, but still not very much. The news shows that I do on Fridays, that is about the same as the DM 101. The member readings, very, very few views at all. And then, of course, the gaming AD&D, which is just me reading through the Dungeon Master's Guide on Thursdays, that gets, pretty low views as well. So, I just sort of wonder, if you're not interested in certain types of videos, then I'll just do something else that you are interested in. Because ultimately what I want to do is hyper focus on Dragonlance, you know what I mean? And whatever form that takes, then, I'm here for it. What I really don't want to be doing is wasting my time if it's something that you're not interested in, and you're tuning in because you're just trying to be nice for algorithms or for the the chat or something. Well, that's awesome of you, but I don't want you to do something that you're not really enjoying, And I want to capitalize on this where you're really having a great time when you do end up having a chance to tune in. So the artwork bit I did with the guy, Mike, is his name, was brilliant. I think the stuff he did with AI tools. Yeah, James. He was great. I had him on for a couple weeks in a row. And his name is Mike Perry. You guys can find his stuff on X. He does a lot of stuff there. And Mike Perry's awesome. And, I could definitely have him on more when he has time. It's just, at some point we're going to run out of artwork to sort of talk about, and then, where do we sort of go? So that's sort of the Wednesday shows like this one, where it's just sort of meant to be a hangout, and we just sort of riff and chat a little bit about Dragonlance for a little while, having a little bit of fun. So I can reach out to him, and I can reach out to other artists and have them come on and showcase their work and talk to them and stuff. One thing that I used to try to do on this channel was interviews with professionals and creators. I actually was having a back and forth with Richard Knack to come on, and then that just got ghosted. I had a back and forth with Cam Banks about coming on, and then that got ghosted. I had a back and forth with another content creator who had a podcast at the time, and they ended up just sort of popping smoke and not wanting anything to do with me because of some of the other videos that I put on this channel. And so that, sort of fizzled. And after 3 strikes, you're out type of vibe of people saying they would come on and then just ghosting me, I was like, okay, well, I'm just not going to bother anymore, because one, it's a lot of work for me to come up with the whole sequence of shows and questions, and get the infrastructure of them coming on and streaming it, and getting on ahead of time to make sure everything's working properly. And you just watched stuff that we normally do before the show of testing audio and video to make sure it works before we go live. It just couldn't really happen this time. And that gets a little bit, sort of aggravating when you go through all the hoops and then they just don't show, or they stop, they ghost you in the discussion of back and forth of coming on the show after, they've already agreed to do it or something. So that gets a little bit frustrating. So I've stopped doing interviews because of that. But, I could try to bring it back if it's something that you guys would be interested in. I love talking to Dragonlance creators. And so it's something where I'm willing to put in the effort and do that. The other side of this is I really want to talk about the different versions of Dungeons and Dragons and how you can run Dragonlance in them. With first edition and second edition, it's super easy because it exists. With third edition, it's super easy because it exists. In fourth edition, they had some Dragon magazine articles talking about bringing in like draconians and stuff like that, but there was no official Dragonlance content in fourth edition. And then in fifth edition, it was totally absent until Shadow of the Dragon Queen was released. And that sort of came out like a wet fart. It didn't really land super well with everyone. And it completely changed the dynamic of the world itself in order to fit the 5e mechanisms of the game itself and the classes of the game. So ultimately it didn't really work that well. But there's also like basic Dungeons and Dragons. How would you convert that to work with Dragonlance? Or what about here, like old school, original Dungeons and Dragons, ODD. You're mainly here for Dragonlance, not interested in others, don't have much time, or drop in on things to make time. No, I understand, Scott. I appreciate it. And really, that's what this all is about. Whether it's talking about, doing the Dungeon Master's Guide live reading, it's all through the context of Dragonlance, because whenever I make comments about a ruling or a specific piece or anything that's germane to Dragonlance, I call that out and sort of have a little back and forth and a little bit of fun with that. The news bit, when there's Dragonlance news, that's going to be front and center, but we don't get a lot of Dragonlance news these days. So, I sort of have to cover Dungeons and Dragons in general, or TTRPGs in general, which again is not Dragonlance specific. And so I can see why people would pop out of that and not really be interested in. And if you're not really into watching live plays or actual plays, then I could totally understand why you don't want to tune into the School of Games tournament that was just recently wrapped up, or other actual plays like Tyranny of Dragons, or I was sort of workshopping how to do the second edition starter set adventure where it has that audio CD. It's the first quest one. I was going to run players through that, but I have to make sure I have enough players to play all the characters so that it can actually happen. So there's a whole lot that I can do. And then, ultimately I could get back into doing like the recipes and getting the music samples and stuff that's in all of the source books. because I've got a whole lot of music from those already done. But right now, I sort of paused in doing the recipes because one, prices of food got really expensive. I did one, I think it was like the Kaganesty fruit salad or something like that, or Elven fruit salad or something. It was like $60 just to buy all of the ingredients so that I could make one video, which did not earn back that $60 anywhere close to it. And so, you start to, especially in this economy, you have to sort of ask yourself, well, is it worth me spending X amount of money in order to do a one-time, one-off video that will maybe get a fraction of that money back? And so that's really not super incentivizing for me right now to do that. Live plays are hard because you're already into one somewhat that's probably 3 hours a week right there. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're 100% right. It's a lot to sit down and watch like an actual play. How is the Dragonlance campaign you're doing? You've been wanting to get into it. James, the Tyranny of Dragons I'm doing is a lot of fun. Like I get frustrated sometimes with the whole setup of it, and because Tyranny of Dragons, in my opinion, isn't a very good adventure. But I'm trying to have it set so woven into the fabric of Dragonlance that it becomes more interesting, and that actually, makes it more fun for me. But yeah, just as the adventure as written, like the whole first part of the adventure, like the whole first half of the Tyranny of Dragons, which is like Horde of the Dragon Queen, 9/10 of that is just a caravan journey and like random stuff happening on the caravan. And that's a lot of time. That we're talking like months of not just in-game time, but real life, depending on how frequently you play. I play that campaign every 2 weeks. And so we have like 1 week off, 1 week on type schedule. And when I don't have all the members able to play, I try to do like a side mission or something that like, fills in some backstory to a character, or, ties in with other tangential events that are happening around the world that doesn't require all the players. Sometimes, if there's only 1 or 2 players missing, I'll just have someone else play their characters and we'll still continue with the adventure. But that's what you got to deal with, is people have lives and their schedules don't always line up with what you plan. And you've got to be able to sort of adjust fire on the day sometimes, where, it's like the day of, I'm like, hey, everyone, are you ready to go? And they're like, oh, I can't make the session. And someone else is like, yeah, I can't make the session either. And you're just like, shit. Okay, well, then we're going to do something else. We're going to pivot, because we're only doing it for, every other week. And I want to make sure that we have something going on just to keep the campaign in motion, because that's how campaigns die, is when you just stop altogether. Like, well, they can't make it, so we'll just do something else. And then that happens a couple of weeks, and then people just don't really feel invested in their characters anymore, and they want to try some other game system or whatever, happens in life, and they just move on. Super aggravating. Real life schedules, real villain of TPRVs for sure, Scott. 100%. Am I looking for people still? Not right now. I have 6 players. The problem is the past 2 game sessions, we've had 2 or 3 of the players unable to make it. And I have a standing rule. If you miss 3 games in a row, you're out, because you just can't make the game anymore. And I've got 2 players that are very close to that. So I might be looking for new players next week, but I don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see. And what I always do is I put it in the members chat first, in the sort of community tab of this YouTube channel. So I'll put it in the community channel saying, I'm looking for a new player. If you're a member, you'll see that. And then if I don't get any answers there after a few days, then I'll go to the open chat for anyone and I'll ask there. And I've always, so far, fingers crossed, been able to find someone that's interested in playing. But I could see a time when, I just don't have anyone that wants to do it, in which case I would have to like either adjust the adventure to fit fewer characters or just try something else entirely, And that's just sort of the way that these things work. You gotta roll with the punches. Campaign sounds like an actual novel, Princess Bride, not just the parts that are read during the film. Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of fun though. I do have a good time with it. You ran a Dragonlance campaign for 2 years. Interested to see what I do. I mean, just tune in. I have synopses on my website, dlsaga.com, for every single episode of what happened in the previous episode. So you could literally just go through like page to page on my website of the adventures and get a synopsis of what happened and catch up really, really quickly if you want, because it's all just a written out synopsis. I usually try to keep it around a paragraph, and that's it, just to keep it, super short and simple, because I also present that same last time on, Dragonlance at the beginning of every single one of my campaigns. Adam is old school, no holds barred DM, be ready if you join his campaign. Scott's absolutely right. I don't pull punches. And if players aren't paying attention, they can easily get TPK'd or they can die in the game. And I don't, like, this last one was a little bit different because there was this sort of divinity imbalance that was at play. And so if that wasn't the story beat that we had planned on going into the campaign, it would have been a TPK last game. Like, for sure. Everyone would have died. Because even in the game, we had 2 deaths. And it was close to the 4 that were actively playing the game. So, but yeah, that's the game, though. That's the fun, is you could always have a chance of dying. And so you have to really think about the situations you find yourselves in. And that's why I always find it really, really funny when people like run into dungeons and they're like super loud and they wander around on their own. Like, you're letting everyone in that dungeon know you're there. Like, sound travels. So if you shout once in an underground dungeon, that could go for like a mile of sound. It may not be like audible what happens at the end of that mile, but it's going to travel and echo, so you're going to get the sound more than once. Just think about Lord of the Rings, when they accidentally knocked the armor down the well and you just clang, clang, clang and echoed that clang. Any combat that you go into in a dungeon, that's the same thing. It's going to echo and you're going to alert people. So you have to think tactically, how are we going to deal with this threat? Are we going to move them to a certain area and try to create a soundproof environment? Or are we going to have a wizard cast silence? So we're just killing this thing in the silence so we don't alert things that we don't know are lurking behind corners. You just really have to sort of tactically plan stuff out. And if your dungeon master isn't doing that, then they're cheating on your behalf. Like, they've got their thumb on the scale saying, I want the players to win. I don't want them to die from their own poor choices. And that isn't playing the game, in my opinion. It's more fun and engaging if there are stakes. I totally agree. Yeah. What time setting you're doing? Your old campaign, you said a few hundred years after the War of Souls. Wow. After the War of Souls, a few hundred years. I wonder what the world looks like in your campaign. Yeah, mine is just under 20 years after the death of Takesis. So it's clearly 20 years after the end of the War of Souls. And it's after, of course, Mina has become a god and, destroyed all the beloved. And, all that stuff happened. And so the world is really, really in an open place because there's no novels in this time period, like ever. They all stopped around the time when the Minotaurs invaded Sylvanesty and set up like the Minotaur trilogy and the Goblin trilogy or whatever it is. Those are like the last books to be written in this time frame. And of course, Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman reset the timeline. And so if you don't want to play in the Fifth Age, you have full... you can just ignore it. I mean, you could always ignore it, but now you have a narrative reason to ignore it. But I'm having fun. I think 5th edition 2014 and 2024 rules are specific to the Fifth Age, because you do have wild sorcery and powers of the heart and regular traditional magic and traditional divine magic as well. So it's all there, just so every class can fit into the dynamic, and you can easily reskin races to fit within within Dragonlance milieu very, very simply. And I actually have a video that I did about this. The session 0 for Tyranny of Dragons, I walked through all the changes that I made. And I had someone ask during a live play, why did I not use the 5th edition version of a Kender versus the way that I did it, basing it off of a halfling? And it's because that's how Kender originally were. In 1st edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, when Dragonlance came out, DL1, they said use the halfling as your starting set and then add on these powers, because a Kender is different from a halfling, and so you just have to have that as the starter kit, and then you add on extra. And I thought, well, if that's what they did originally, why don't I do that now? Because all I'm doing is adjusting Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition 2024 rule set to play Dragonlance, just like they adjusted Advanced Dungeons & Dragons to play Dragonlance. So why would I go with the crappy version that WotC created of a Kender and all their sorcerers and their orders of high sorcery nonsense that they put out, when I could just do it myself and have it more down to earth for what Dragonlance actually was originally? And I like that idea. You know, I even pulled in some of the stuff from the DLA Dragonlance Adventures of the Kender's pocket grab ability, and the table for rolling to see what's in their actual pouches and stuff. It's very, very cool to use these old original sources in a new game system, because let's be honest, as much as we try to have flame wars about additions, they're not that different. Like when you strip them down, and this is like a video that I've always thought about doing and I just haven't done yet, is go through the core mechanics of Dungeons and Dragons in every edition in one video. So it's attacking, and it would be ODD, BDD, ADD, 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition, and just give you a quick, this is how they do it in each edition. And in a lot of the cases, it's going to be exactly the same for different game mechanics. Some of them are going to be different, but you know, at that point, when you have them side by side and you can just compare and contrast, and you go, it's like, oh, Dungeons & Dragons really hasn't evolved that much, and the general idea is there in every edition. It's just the way it's done is slightly different. Now I feel more comfortable playing in different editions, because I know, like, when I started talking about running an Advanced Dungeons & Dragons campaign, like doing the original DL modules in AD&D, players that I would reach out to were like, oh, I've never played it, and I don't really, you know, it looks really complicated and I don't really understand. And so I did the whole how to play Advanced Dungeons & Dragons series of videos just to showcase it's really easy. Like, this is a game built for children to play. Like, middle school kids played this on the regular. So if you're like a grown adult or in high school, it's not too difficult for you. And it's very, very easy. It just has to be presented in a logical way. And unfortunately, when it was written in the Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide, it wasn't very logically presented. It was like scattered around and it's just very sort of erratic. But if you know, when you just sort of strip it down to its bare essentials and present it very direct, it's the easiest thing you could ever do, you know, is play AD&D. It's super easy. And it's a much more dangerous game with much higher stakes, which is so much more interesting to me. Again, it's not for everyone, and I can respect that. Sounds like a helpful and informative video. I think it would be fun. I just got to get off my tuchus and do it. You're currently running Shadow of the Dragon Queen, but you're using Tasseloff pouches of everything revised as source material. Oh, that's cool, Scott. Look, I'm a big fan of DL Nexus. I think they do a lot of really great work, and I'm really excited that they're putting out so much really cool 5th edition content. I'm just not a huge fan with 5th edition. So after Tyranny of Dragons is done, I'm probably not going to be playing 5th edition again for a very long time, because I really want to finish the original DL modules in AD&D. And so, you know, I'll do some of those. I really want to play 3rd edition campaigns, the Key of Destiny, Spectre of Sorrows, and Price of Courage, you know, trilogy of campaigns for 3rd edition. I think that would be super dope to play, because I've never gotten past Key of Destiny. think it's what's called, the first one. I played that with my friends when it first came out, and I had Margaret Wise sent me a signed copy of it. I was like so excited. But again, life got in the way and we could never finish it. But now that I'm sort of running this channel, I think I could probably pull it off in time, you know? So I want to do the original modules. I want to do the third edition modules. And there's a lot of second edition stuff, especially at Toleda's, that I want to run. Like, they have a lot of really great second edition modules that are all about like finding dragon eggs and bringing dragons back to Krynn. You have to travel up to Lunatari, the moon, and you're traveling all over Toleda's as a setting. I mean, that's super cool and different. You know, a way to experience Dragonlance in a completely different way if you're not unfamiliar with Toleda's. It is very, very different, and yet it's still Dragonlance. And that's just a whole lot of fun that you could do, you know? You just finished a 3-year campaign of the original Dragonlance modules. You had another guy convert to 5e. Oh, wow. I know online there was, I know the name of it. Atomic Peanut Butter Group, I think is what it's called. They ran all of the original modules as 5th edition as well. But did you deal with like battle system and like the massive, like how did you deal with the mass combat? Because that's a huge part of the original DL modules, starting with DL 6 Dragons of Ice, I think, where you have to actually invade Fealthaz's Ice Keep. It's like battle system light version, to be fair, but that's what I want to do. Is I want to go through that's why I want to do it in AD&D, so that I get that real core experience of playing it as it was written for, and as, you know, as uncomfortable and annoying as it might be. But there's like multiple versions of the endings, and it all depends on the Talus deck and how that's used. And players have completely different experiences each time they play through it, because the Talus deck tells them that they're going to do it in a different way, and so it's a different ending. So as soon as you get past Sylvanesty and dealing with Lorak and the Dragon Orb there, the game, it has a completely different arc depending on how that Talus deck is interpreted. And that's a lot of fun because that allows replayability, and then you get to do that mass combat stuff, especially that final battle at Naraka with all the dragon armies and the Whitestone Council fighting each other in that mass combat way. I'm really into trying that. I think that would be a lot of fun. And I have a playthrough of Battle System, the Battle of Quilinosti, where Verminard's Red Dragon Army is invading Quailenost. And it was me and friend of the show, Derek, and we were just on his ping pong table with this massive piece of paper with grids drawn on it. I just sort of hand drew the areas, and we just had this massive combat. It took like 4 hours to get through, but it was hella fun. You know, it was a good 4 hours. It took 2 sessions to do it, but I had a good time. And it's all in AD&D. And so if you're familiar with AD&D, then, you know, it's really easy to pick up. Your DM made something up himself. It was more lore and a player. That's fun still too. That's cool. I mean, look, as long as everyone enjoys themselves, like, you know, do your thing. Like, who cares? It's just what I want to try to do is make sure that I get it. What would you recommend for beginner novice to look for a group? You're not sure how to find a group that wouldn't mind being patient with someone just starting to learn. Look, I brought my sister into the Tyranny of Dragons campaign. She hadn't played D&D for years, and she, you know, I think she would be the first person to say that she was really timid and hesitant in the role-playing side of things, but I think she's done a great job and she's come around. Any game, any dungeon master should be okay with new players because the rules are so simple that it's a quick look up and then, you know, you make your ruling type deal. But I find playing with newer players much more fun because not only do you get to live vicariously through their eyes of how to learn the game system, which I think is part of the fun, but also if they're not familiar with all the lore and stuff, they're walking into this world of Dragonlance arguably for the first time. And it's a crazy, different, wild, wonderful world that they're exploring. And to go through that vicariously for someone for the first time is super special. And I love that aspect of it. So when I ran my XD20 campaign, I ran with people who had never played before. When I did the Saga system game, the Forget the Kender campaign, that was with people who'd never played it before. I, I don't really know where to go. I mean, there's forums on Roll20 and there's forums on D&D Beyond. I don't know the other VTTs. I'm sure they all have forums as well where you can go, but that's a good place to start because you have people LFG looking for a group or LFP looking for players, and you can just tap into people immediately right there. But I mean, you're welcome to join in my games whenever I have an opening, as long as the schedules mesh up. You know, I mean, I think it would be a lot of fun to have someone new. And the patience part of it isn't as big of a deal as I think people expect it to be or worry that it is, because you all, even players who have played for years, consider, you know what I mean? When their turn comes up, they're like, what if I do this? Or could I do that? And so they take a long time themselves. So the patience of learning the game, deciding what your character is going to do, thinking about how you fit in with the other players on the table and the world as presented by the DM, I don't think it's that big of a deal. You know, I think everyone just rolls with it. And I've never played with players, I'm sure they exist, but I've been fortunate enough never to have to deal with them that are impatient. Every player that I've ever played with has helped other players. So if they are new, they're like, hey, how about you try this? Or what about trying this? Or what do you think of trying this? And they always throw out suggestions to help them sort of get into the mode of playing the game. And I don't think enough is said about players in their role in having a smooth game with new players, because your existing players are more important than the dungeon master in welcoming in a new player and encouraging them. Because ultimately the dungeon master is setting up a scenario. It's the other players that are really the ones that are helping that new player along. And like, let's just be honest. If you run into an asshole player, you're probably not going to play with them for very long, and you're not going to welcome them back to the table. So you easily filter those types of players out. So all you're left with are the cool kids that are open to do whatever they want to do, and they're open to help people that are new because they want new players to come in and join them too. Because usually there's like a 2 to 6 players at the table range, and if you don't have that, then of course they need more players to play, and so they want to bring more players in, and the more players we have, the more games we can play. So lots of fun that way. So I wouldn't even sweat it at all. Just look at some of those places online, and I think you'll find a game for sure. Let's see, you played the original modules when they first came out in the 80s. That's awesome. First time you played in the 80s, you were Raceland. This time you started as Flint, but then your Raceland flaked, and your DM decided it was easier to replace Flint and have you take over Raceland. That's cool. Honestly, you use the videos on Discord for new players in your campaign to catch up lore. Oh, that's fun. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I always like it when I get messages from people who view the videos and they're like, hey, I just showed this to my players. Thanks for doing it. That's the best. Because look, usually I'm just speaking to other fans. But if there's ever like a new player that's never learned about Dragonlance, that's arguably even better because you're creating new fans. I've never met I know they exist. I've never met anyone that has been exposed to Dragonlance and just been like, I hate it. I don't want to play in it. It's usually like you don't know anything about it, or you have conceptions about what Dragonlance is supposed to be, and then you play it or you're exposed to it and you're like, oh, this is totally different, or this is exactly what I wanted, or whatever. Because it's just such a great setting to do any type of storytelling in any edition of the game or other game systems, not even Dungeons and Dragons. So, all right. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I know we started out trying to do the Dragon Wars thing, and that didn't end up working very well, but are the Discord videos different from the ones on YouTube channel? No, they're all the same. You had a guy binge watch my lore videos with like Netflix. That's awesome. I like that a lot. But I think we ended up sort of adjusting and talking a little bit about the Dragon Wars, but then going to, you know, campaigns and playing Dragonlance. And so can't get better than that. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this hangout today. What do you think of the Dragon Wars card game? Do you prefer the original rules to the Fate deck rules, which I didn't actually cover, so I don't know why I'm asking you. And finally, what is your favorite Dragonlance board game or card game? Let me know in the comments below. Feel free to email me at info@dealsaga.com. I would like to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos, and click the like button. It all goes to help other Dragonlance fans learn about this channel and its content. This channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of Dragonlance Saga, and I hope you'll join in that celebration. Thank you for watching. This has been Adam with Dragonlance Saga, and until next time, Slanjavar.